Hello and welcome to For Your Reconsideration, the film podcast that seeks revenge for the mistreated, the maligned, the misunderstood movies of cinema's long and lonesome highway. Unless it was shit. Rob, and here's James.
Hello.
What are you, man?
Ooh, sweary Rob.
I know, straight off the bat. Obviously that will be bleeped in post-production, industrial light and magic shenanigans later on. Can you imagine getting an ILM to do a sensibly?
Awesome. We've been away that long that I thought you'd developed sort of a new hard bitten image.
Absolutely not. There is no sight of that whatsoever. How are you, man? Are you okay?
I'm good. Speaking of being away for so long, they've actually arrested somebody in connection to Tupac's murder.
We've not been away since 1997. But they have, yeah. I mean, bottom line, probably don't go on podcasts bragging about your involvement in a murder. But that's for another podcast.
It's for the courts to decide.
I love it. Since when did FYR become a true crime podcast? So we are down our brother Simon tonight, so big love to you, man. But we are going to press on valiantly in missing man formation. And so, James, what have you been watching, man?
Oh, all sorts, mate. So we're recording this in the middle of October, so watching all sorts of spooky stuff, which brought me to The Fall of the House of Usher. Now, It turns out that this isn't a docuseries about Atlanta-based R&B sensation Usher Raymond, but rather Mike Flanagan's screed against rampant capitalism and the super rich through the prism of Poe. And Rob, that's Edgar Allan as opposed to Cameron. What The Fall of the House of Usher lacks in overall scares, it more than makes up for in Flanagan's gleeful evisceration in every way imaginable of this titular clan of arseholes. I mean, there's no other word for them, really. I enjoyed it, particularly Bruce Greenwood's central turn. But come on, Mike, it's time to make a movie again now. You've been doing this TV thing for too long. You've not made a movie since 2018. Let's crack on. He's moving over to Amazon, so I'm hoping that a TV show and then a movie and then a TV show and then a movie, because when it comes to horror, he's genuinely one of the best. He could be like James Wan, he could be the king of horror if he wanted to be, on the big screen, not just on the small screen. He's cornered that market now. Now it's time to move back onto the big screen stuff as well, because he's an incredibly talented writer and director.
This is everywhere at the minute. Everyone's talking about this. Also, in terms of how hard bitten it is as well. Apparently, it's heavy. Thematically and content wise, pretty heavy going.
Yeah, it's probably the most unsympathetic thing that he's made. Actually, usually manages to get weave sorrow and sympathy into his characters, but this lot are just the worst. So it's I enjoyed it. I whipped through it in like a week, so it's not like I can complain too much. It's top tier television. I don't think it's as good as Midnight Mass, the show that he did a few years ago for Netflix. Yeah. But yeah, it was very good, very entertaining. Bruce Greenwood, well good. What a guy, Captain awesome. Pike himself. Yeah.
What a dude.
Yes.
Awesome. Anything else? Anything else that's caught your fancy and attention?
Yes, I wanted to shout out something that probably won't be on the big screen by the time this episode comes out, but something that I really enjoyed. Now, I want to make sure Gareth Edwards, I believe it is. I always get him and Gareth Evans mixed up, the Raid dude.
Yeah.
So, I think it's Gareth Edwards. So if I've mixed them up again, apologies. So Gareth Edwards has somehow made the most visually spectacular blockbuster of the year with less than half the budget of your average superhero movie, and for that alone, I feel like he should be celebrated. The creator is a hugely ambitious slice of original sci-fi that, from a visual standpoint at least, calls to mind the work of big budget filmmakers like Ridley Scott and James Cameron. It isn't perfect. The politics and messaging of the trope-heavy screenplay are admittedly a tad muddled. The broad-stroke nature of the characterization seemingly at odds with the painstaking detail that's gone into the world building. However, apparent as these issues may be, for me, they are easily forgivable given how easy it is to be swept up in the grandiose scale of the world that Edwards has created. The film frequently delivers large-scale action set pieces that will have the hairs on the back of your neck standing up, and it carries you along on its exhilarating exploration of how we interact with AI, the fog of war, and coexistence. I mean, whether the creator does well at the box office or not, I mean, from what I've seen, it probably won't, is almost immaterial. What every studio head should be looking at with this $86 million movie and asking themselves is, why does this look and feel more real and just generally look better than the multiple $200 to $300 million tentpoles we've been putting out over the last 5 years? Honestly, from a visual standpoint, I think it's an incredible achievement. I don't know how he's done it on that budget.
Amazing. Amen, brother. I think on our WhatsApp group we were talking about like that you've been to see this movie.
Yeah.
And then I remember you mentioning 86 million and like just from the trailer, I mean I'd be like, surely that's just what the trailer cost.
Yeah,
that's it. Never
unreal,
mind.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable budget to visual, like what you get on the screen.
Exactly.
Out
all the budget is on the screen, basically. I mean, the cast isn't as star-studded. John David Washington is the lead, who I imagine doesn't pull down huge salaries at this stage in his career. And the rest is all, like character actors who you've seen here and there, Alison Janney and whatnot. So yeah, he's been able to put all that, but the visuals were just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I was like, well, why did Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny look as bad as that, despite costing 3 times as much? I know some of that is down to COVID delays and whatnot. But even then, that's a $200 million movie, and it can't lace the creator's boots in terms of visuals at all. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I would highly recommend that. I know we tend to overrate craft more than story sometimes, because I almost go in, it's like, well, wow me visually, rather. I know basically what the nuts and bolts of this story are going to be, so wow me visually. And so there was genuinely some sci-fi stuff in this that I was like, I've never seen that before. That's a really
that genuinely is quite rare. It is rare that that you can get that and go, right, I've never seen that before, and that's a challenge. For present day filmmakers, but also like it is important to try and stand up and stand out.
Absolutely,
and doing that in the current smorgasbord of stuff that we've got coming out year on year. And again, I hate to say it, but we are largely looking at the output of superhero stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That forms a lot of these tentpole releases. Visually, there's just nothing that sort of inspires anymore, I suppose. No. So I am really looking forward to seeing this, and I will be trying to catch it in the cinema.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be well worth the trip. It's a 12 as well, so you could possibly take the older kids. I think the younger one might get
the younger one.
He might get bored.
Well, he might do. Actually, that's a risk because, after tonight's film offering in the Parker household. He's tough. The 6-year-old he can handle.
Yeah, there's nothing too upsetting in it. It's more just people talking and stuff like that. I might find a bit boring.
So tonight we watched Temple of Doom in our house.
Can I? The amount of times you've come on this podcast saying we have watched Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
it must be someone. I'll have to go through all the episodes.
We might have to.
I think we might have hit 10. Yeah, tonight we fired up Temple of Doom.
So this is the first time a 6-year-old has sat and watched it.
Yeah,
and I kept saying to him like, "Look, do you want me to fast forward?" And he was like, "No, don't." And then obviously the Dom Dom Shemai, all this kind of stuff. He was like, he's burning! Woo! He loved it. He absolutely loved it all. It was dreadful. Loved all of that stuff. The horrible stuff, when Indy's being held down and he's got like stuff being poured into his mouth.
Yeah.
Out of an awful putrid skull. No, he loved all that. Absolutely loved it. I said, is any of this scary to you? And he went, nope. So... Yeah, it was great. Even like the 6 skins with pubic rugs in the background. Because of course it was on. We watched it on Disney, so it was glittering 4K. It was absolutely beautiful. So yeah, no, he absolutely loved it.
Outstanding.
And then I said, like, do you want to watch another? And he said at the end, another now. So I, fresh off our recent episode, I clicked on Crystal Skull, and the first thing he went was like, he's old! Turn it off! I said, turn it off! I want him to be young! So we went to Raiders, and he absolutely swamped on it until it was time to record.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Brilliant. I mean, he's really not going to like Dial of Destiny if he thinks he's old in Crystal Skull.
Yeah, well, yeah, very, very good point. Was there anything else you want to shout about, or...?
No, not at all. I mean, no, that's everything, I think, Rob. Yeah.
Cool. So we're going through a big Mutant Mayhem phase because it's now on Prime. As in, it's you can purchase it on Prime,
right, yeah.
which we did do. It's still a lot of fun, even on 6 viewings. I think I'm on now.
Wow.
Still fun. My son got a batch of the toys for his birthday. Oof. Wowee. I don't know who was happier, him or me. And at night time, my wife has been watching Married at First Sight.
Australia or UK?
I think it's the UK. It's just absolutely awful, isn't it?
Oh yeah. During the pandemic, we watched the Australian one because everyone was raving about it, and from a pure drama standpoint, I mean, it was terrible, obviously, but from a pure drama standpoint, there was like fights kicking off, and there was affairs going on within the married couples and stuff like that.
Really?
So it sort of delivered on the drama front.
When did they have affairs?
Oh, they were because they were all staying. They do it slightly. I don't want to deep. They were like they have these meetups, and they were like clearly getting close with some of the other spouses, and then they're all in like having like pretend marriages in these in this like apartment building that they all live in at the same time, and they were sneaking off to illicitly meet with other couples. So
I guess we've not got to this yet because our guys, they'll never be my guys. They've all I've watched is just a string of ultra cringe weddings.
Oh yeah.
So
it gets way better after the weddings.
Oh no, I don't. Yeah. I mean, what we've seen already is just. It's like moving image putrefaction. What I've seen, it's just next level awful. And a cavalcade of some of the most awful people you will ever see in your life. Anyway, so it's sending me to sleep so angry because I try and read something and I'm reading it and then I just like hear someone in the background like, if I'm not the centre of his world, then this marriage ain't gonna last. Like, oh, I just can't help getting like fizzing with anger. Anyway,
but now you're hooked and you have to see.
I am absolutely not. I would know if I was hooked actually, and I'd be big enough to admit it as well. Like I remember the moment when Neighbours snagged me massively.
Yeah.
Like right, I'm in. I'm all in now. This definitely hasn't done it. I tell you what has though is what I've just watched. The first season of which I've just watched is Yellowstone.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Very, very enjoyable cowboy shenanigans.
Oh, yeah.
I only have... I mean, it's some of the most lush production you will find anywhere. It's stunning to look at. And I think largely very well written. Part of what I'm struggling with at the minute at the end of season 1, I've just watched the 2-part finale a couple of nights ago, is that usually I would imagine when you're posing a story, you have to have likable qualities in some people, and there aren't a great deal at the moment.
Oh no.
Just shocking people doing shocking things to each other, but that might change. I don't know, but at the minute. obviously it's very, very good. But I've actually had to have a couple of nights break from it because it's just don't want to watch those shockers go at it against each other every another
I
episode.
saw someone
you know?
describe it as the Sopranos and Stetsons, basically. Which...
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah.
But no, I mean it's the kind of television that, like, when we were younger, like the idea of this just on this scale,
yeah,
and this well made is just bananas.
I know there's 4 of them coming out every single week that are made with the same level of production value, and
just amazing. I mean,
they'll
this
just
would
get
be
lost in the
seismic to
shuffle.
us.
Yeah, we're big Yellowstone fans, to be honest. We started it at the end of last year, I think, and we're up to date. We're waiting for the new season to come out, and I would say that the first 3 seasons are the best by some distance. And then what tends to happen with long-running series is you introduce so many characters, and then we're off like spending time with some of these characters who just frankly aren't that interesting.
Yeah.
And not enough people are getting murdered and stuff like that.
There is a lot of murder. In these.
That does tail off, but not in the first 3 seasons.
I mean, the amount of death is astonishing.
Well, it's the Wild West, isn't it?
Well, apparently so.
We're protecting our way of life.
Our land, for my family. Obviously. I mean, just crack on, chaps. You know. I would say Cole Hauser in season 1, from what I've seen, is an absolute highlight.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Love him.
He's good.
He is really good. I think he's for me. I find him more compelling, dangerously compelling than any other character at the moment. I think he's absolutely amazing. So I'm very interested to see what happens next. The only thing that's been missing from this season so far is, considering the location and wilderness, has been a surprise appearance from the Big Brown Machine. But don't worry, listeners, we've got a scheduled appearance right here. Now's the time for Bigfoot Corner. Boop, boop, ba-doop, boop, boop, boop.
Bigfoot Corner.
So, James, the Bigfoot world has
Simon's not here to help me.
The Bigfoot world has been agog this past week, and our social media accounts have been all of a tizzy.
Oh yeah, can I just thank everybody who keeps tagging me personally into Bigfoot evidence? It really is the highlight of my Twitter feed. So yeah, please keep that up.
So obviously we're talking about this revelatory footage that's going round as the Colorado Bigfoot footage. James, I mean, because it's on your feed so readily, I'm assuming you've seen it.
Yeah, well, I've seen it because I was tagged in it by a number of listeners of this podcast, and then my own wife tagged me in it as well.
Mrs. Stewart, we love you.
Yes.
And thank you. Well, I'd like to know also, as an aside, I'd love to know what Mrs. Stewart made of this. But, James, what did you make of it?
Well, it got debunked pretty quickly. So apparently,
did it?
Yes. So there was a on Twitter. I'm never going to call it X. It's always Twitter.
Yeah, it's always Twitter.
Underneath, they had a one of those disclaimers that adds extra context to it, and apparently, it's some sort of Sasquatch trail. I could look it up if I could be bothered. And basically, it's like a sponsored sort of Sasquatch trail that's ran by a company, and the owner of said company sometimes comes out when the buses are going past dressed as Bigfoot. Right. So it has been debunked. Sorry, Rob.
No, there's
it's
no
not
sorry
the smoking.
here.
It's not the smoking gun that we were looking for.
It's not, and I have to be honest, when I saw it, I knew it was never going to be a hill I'd die on, because I thought it very much looked terrible, and very much like a man in a suit, and I actually worried that this might have put the science on the topic of the Big Brown Machine back generations, actually.
Oh no.
It was not great, but it's got everyone talking about it, and for a while on the side of Twitter, not X, the word Bigfoot was trending. I mean, like I saw that and I thought, They must have found him at last. Expedition Bigfoot must have found him. Incidentally, with Expedition Bigfoot, it's going great guns on Discovery Plus and on the Discovery Channel on Sky. But 2 weeks ago, they said the new episode is out, and they replayed an old one from season 3 at the last minute. And I thought, this is cover-up. This must be because the new episode was about to go out, filled with so much incendiary revelations. And then that same night, I just went on Discovery Plus, and it was just like, yeah, we made an error on Sky. We just sent them the wrong one.
Underneath it said, we genuinely didn't think anybody would notice because in the latest episode, like in this one from season 3, we didn't find him. But we got some lovely foliage shots.
Well, do you know what I did? I watched the entirety of the episode they used as a replacement, and by the end of it, I was like, "This series is awful." I mean, they're just reusing footage, and they're just talking about the same stuff. I didn't realise I'd seen it 18 months ago, until the penny dropped. So sadly, listeners and fans of Bigfoot Corner, we're still looking, but we are still encouraged and excited and ready for the next big revelation from the Bigfoot world. And that is Bigfoot Corner. Boo, boo, ba-doo, boo, boo, boo.
Bigfoot Corner.
Quite downbeat after all the erotica of last time out.
Yeah, more sedate Bigfoot Corner.
Less Rudy Doody Bigfoot Corner, which is always a good thing, I find.
Yes.
So, on to this week's movie. And this week's movie, core blimey, is mine.
It was, yeah.
Should we go for a logline?
Oh, yes, please, Rob.
Okay. A corporate stooge hockey dad harrowingly watches his son get killed by Garrett Hedlund's band of merry thugs, thus setting off a monumentally violent and extremely tragic chain of events. Shouldn't be laughing at this point.
It's not real. It's not documentary. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. A monumentally violent and tragic chain of events featuring one of the greatest buzz cuts since the 2022 Oscars. Of course, it's James Wan's 2007 Kevin Bacon vengeance vehicle, Death Sentence. Can I say that?
Yeah, leave that in.
Okay, guys. Brandon Hume, you've just won MVP.
Yeah. Number one.
Nick?
Hey, honey. I just wanted to let you know that our son is going to Canada to play hockey. I love you, and we'll be home soon. Hey, where do you think you're going?
I need something to drink, Dad.
Okay, well, quick in and out, because we got to get home.
All right.
Get down!
You can do this.
Number 5.
Put that animal in jail.
I want this guy to go away for the rest of his life. I've got one eyewitness, you. We've just got your word.
I'm dismissing this case. Mr. Darley, you are released from custody.
You kidding me? Your brother, dude, he's dead.
I say who lives, I say who dies.
I'm coming for the rest of your family.
You just bought them a death sentence.
I really don't care what happens to me. I just need them to be safe. How do I make it stop?
You started a war. God help you.
I need guns. You got 3 grand?
Richard.
Richard. So, death sentence. James Wan. James, this is an interesting one for me. This is the hardest film I think that we've ever tried to get on the podcast. I mean, I don't mean like that we all argued about ever having it on. It's just physically trying to get it.
Yeah.
It's tough going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sort of drives home the importance of physical media, because when we were planning to record this episode, you couldn't rent Death Sentence from any of the streamers that you would normally rent it from. So in order to do this, you actually have to sort of pick up a copy of it, either from, charity shop or from CEX or one of these second-hand places, or where I did, which was on eBay. Which, it's in this day and age, the fact that you can't access a film that was released 15 years ago, just over. And it's directed by, a proper filmmaker in James Wan, who's got Aquaman 2 coming out later this year and is the king of horror films, and Kevin Bacon, who has been on our screens for the last decade as the EE man here in the UK. The idea that this is just completely fallen through the cracks just sort of underlines the how wasteful the streaming model is and how many films can just fall by the wayside. So, yeah, if you want to watch Death Sentence, you will need to get a physical copy of it, which we've all helped ourselves to, I believe.
Yeah, this is the thing. If you type it in on Amazon, to try and get it on Prime, you get immediately rejigged over to another film called Death Sentence. You don't go to the 2007 James Wan one, which makes it doubly hard to try and find. There's a great website called Just Watch, where if I ever want to know where I can stream or view something, I'll type it in on that. It's not even featured on that. It's the first
I've
time
just tried it again now.
Really? It's honestly, it's so forgotten and so difficult to find. Not on Sky, not on Netflix. It is, and I got to a point I've never seen this with, and I mean that all those Bigfoot movies, those terrible Bigfoot movies that I watch, all readily available, all dead easy to find. Not this. No. Why is this? I've got no idea. It's for some reason it's Death Sentence by James Wan starring Kevin Bacon. Is it blacklisted in some way? I've got no idea.
I should have really researched this more closely to see which studio or production company actually put this out, because what it's most likely is maybe one of the companies that did the financing or owns the rights no longer exists, so there's nobody to purchase the rights from, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But you would think that this would be perfectly fine to be just shoved onto any sort of streaming platform. It's a fairly, slot A into slot B revenge drama. That it's not demanding viewing. We're not getting into the review of it as such, but you would expect this type of film to be available on a streaming service of some description.
So you're not going to. This is exactly the kind of movie. Right, I've got some time to kill, and I want something that I don't really need a brain for. Yeah. Which streaming services are absolutely perfect for.
Exactly.
When you're scrolling through, let's give that a go, kind of thing. So it does feel like a missed trick. But what about your relationship with Death Sentence, James? I mean, did you ever seen it before?
I have seen it before, not in theatres. Spoilers: nobody saw it in theatres. But this one feels like a Blockbuster or Love Film rental from back in the day. However, I must put forward my main introduction to this film, which was through yourself, Rob. I remember you having a French version of an absolutely massive Death Sentence poster.
I did,
hanging in your room or your house at the time.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And it was the titles were all in French. Everything was in French on there, and yes, you were. It was your pride and joy on your wall.
Can I guess? Was I single at the time?
Probably.
Had I ever kissed a girl at this point?
Debatable, I suppose. But I was like, that is a very cool poster, to be fair. It does have a great... It's like a black and white poster, isn't it?
Isn't it?
With Bacon holding what looks like a baseball bat with blood dripping off it, but the blood is bright white, isn't it? So
yeah.
And I was taken with the poster, and that's probably what spurred me onto renting it.
Oh man, I'm so
because obviously
honestly, that's a result for me having a French poster of a film that is no longer available anywhere.
Do you not have that poster anymore, Rob?
No, I mean, I'd love to say no. It's over our marital bed right now. You know, next to the JCVD quad poster of Hard Target.
So yeah, that was my introduction. Obviously, I knew who James Wan was because he directed Saw. I still haven't seen Dead Silence, his haunted puppet movie that he made in between these two films.
Yeah, I've not seen that either.
But I knew that this was sort of a change of pace for him, moving away from pure horror.
Yeah, I mean, like at this point in time, like he I think it seemed like his genre was just simply going to be, if you had a genre or a pigeonhole for James Wan, would be visceral filmmaking. You know, like propulsively exciting and extremely what's the word? Like, violent and visceral. I know I've used the word visceral already, but
gory,
but that kind of thing. Gory,
splattery,
splattery. Yeah, that's.
Which, ironically, he's completely moved away from.
Yeah,
now,
crazily.
I went back to it a little bit with 'Malignant, not to do any spoilers for that. I know you haven't seen it yet, boys.
I'd love to see it.
Such a tremendously fun movie. So no spoilers for that. He does get his violence on again in that one, but
nice.
But yeah, he sort of moved it. He did a Fast and Furious. He's done an Aquaman movie, and then the rest have been sort of like haunted house type things, like the Insidious films and the Conjuring, which are not gory films by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but he's definitely one for, like, shock factor is a great big part of his filmmaking.
Yes, absolutely.
Toolbox, isn't it? I think for myself, I obviously knew of Saw. I've never been a big. I went to the cinema to see Saw. Now I know that like a lot of stuff gets put in the gore-no category.
Yeah.
Which is where I would put Hostel. Yeah. I never put Saw in that category because I thought that, like, story-wise and filmmaking-wise, I thought it was always a cut above.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But that's just my personal take on it.
No, I agree. I think with that one, it was more indebted to something like Seven, but with more visceral and upsetting gore than that particular film. Obviously not as good as Seven.
But you are right in that kind of like impossible choice stuff.
Yeah.
Seven was like for me that's the Mac Daddy of impossible choice, and you know, like just pushing the envelope so far in storytelling. And what you put your characters through. But this was definitely, it was definitely had one foot in the horror camp. So.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, that's definitely a horror film. I mean, the new one's just out now, which I haven't been to see it because I gave up on that franchise a long time ago. Even though we did do Saw 2 on this podcast many moons away.
That was good.
Yeah. The first couple are all right, but this new one is Saw X, Saw 10. Ridiculous.
Are they on to 10?
Yeah. They've even done a spin-off with Chris Rock. It's mental how many iterations of this franchise there's been.
Yeah.
But this new one apparently...
Oh, Richard!
brings back Tobin Bell, who, spoilers, dies in one of the later entries.
What?
And takes place between Saw 1 and Saw 2. So it's sort of like a prequel reboot.
What?
It's apparently not bad because it's more of a revenge movie than it is him torturing like innocent people.
It's not James Wan again, is it though?
No, it's brand new directors this time. James Wan has left Saw. Well, he the only one he's directed is the first one.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how lovely is that to set something off?
Yeah.
And then just wander off and probably get still some fabulous residuals from it.
Unbelievable. Every time they make a new one, him and Lei Wan-ol are just rubbing their hands together. Like, yeah. Do we have to do anything? No, just open the checks when they come.
Yeah. Take them down the post office. Why would you take them? Sorry, I'm
saying it's 1995 in our world.
I was going to say it's 1945. The war's still going on. it's really interesting this, because I'm a massive fan of the revenge genre, just in its simplicity as a vehicle for telling a story.
Yeah.
Because for me, there's nothing more potent than revenge, and the length someone will go to, because everyone's got a line.
Yeah.
And where that line is, and where that line is found, I always find interesting in all the books and films about revenge.
Yeah.
You know, what's the point where you go, no, I've gone too far, or where's too far, or anything like that. So seeing the guy who did Saw doing a revenge movie was always going to be very interesting to me. As parishioners of this podcast know, I'm a massive Kevin Bacon fan. So him doing a revenge movie with the guy who did Saw, hugely interesting. I love Death Wish as well with Charles Bronson.
Never seen.
it's
I've heard the
fascinating.
first one is very good, but then the sequels are pretty dreadful.
Yeah, don't go near. I mean, I one watch and I don't need to go near that again. But the first one is absolutely fascinating, not least because Jeff Goldblum plays a sort of like a horribly, dare I say, a rapist hoodlum. Is that fair to say?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Fill your jolly boots. There's a lot of chaos theory going on in that film. But it's in a sort of like purely propulsive filmmaking. Revenge cinema is great. I really, really like it. So this was always going to be a must-watch for me. And yeah, I've had it on DVD. I've obviously had a large-scale French poster in my domicile to impress the ladies. And I was buzzing to watch it again because I've always very much liked it. But I have no idea how it did, apart from assuming, because you just can't get it anywhere, that it largely sank without a trace. Would that be reflective in the budget and box office scores?
Yeah, so it didn't do well at the box office. So Death Sentence opened in just under 2,000 theatres in the United States and grossed 4.2 million with an average of 2,322 per theatre, and ranking at number 8 on the box office on its first week of release. The film ultimately earned $9.5 million domestically, so in the US, and $7.5 million internationally, for a total of just under $17 million worldwide, against a production budget of $20 million. So it's not even a real high budget film.
No.
And it's an interesting sort of point in James Wan's career, because it's after this he makes the first Insidious film, which I think he makes for about $1 million. So he sort of goes back to low budget horror, because Dead Silence, the haunted puppet movie, that didn't hit either. So, he's on the verge of being put in director jail with two, after breaking out with Saw, he's had two critical and box office disappointments in a row. So he goes back to Insidious, which again, I believe is a Blumhouse movie, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
They do the Blumhouse model on that. They make it super cheap, get in Rose Byrne, Patrick Wilson.
Yeah.
And then, make it super cheap, and it makes loads and loads of money
at
the box office, and creates a brand new franchise, and then he's back in again as the king of horror.
That is amazing, because I have to be honest. So if you're saying that Insidious cost a 20th of this,
yeah,
that is just because they're like, in terms of look comparatively, they're very similar.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
it's just amazing what he managed to achieve with that $1 million for Insidious.
According to this, the budget on Insidious was $1.5 million.
That's amazing. What an achievement.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, obviously what they do is they get the actors to work on scale, don't they, and give them back end if it's a hit, and he probably didn't take his fee and took a similar deal. But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that what you can get on the screen if you sort of strip away all the agents and producers' fees and just focus on if you've got the know-how to do it as well. That's the key, I would say.
Which he evidently had. That's absolutely amazing. So another reason why I like this film is that I always suspected that fans, the audience, might actually like it a lot more than it was received critically. And there is evidence that kind of supports that. So if I'm going to take what usually is Simon's role here in talking about the critical reception, we've got 3.2 on Letterboxd, which is that's arguably a higher one for us. That
yes,
it
is a higher one. It's surprising, actually.
That is, yeah. Rotten Tomatoes has got it as 20% with the critics, but 60% with the audience. You don't often get a 40% swing.
That is quite significant. I mean,
yeah.
Obviously, Rotten Tomatoes is not a great gauge for whether a film is good or not, because a film could have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and it'll all be 3-star reviews across the board. So an average movie is seen as one of the greatest of all time, according to the tomato meter. But yeah, it does seem like critics did take against this one.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, the Metacritic Metascore is 36 with this, but an 80% user rating.
Right, wow.
So it definitely has its fans. It also found a few critical supporters. Variety gave it a 7 out of 10, well-made, often intensely gripping genre piece. Ebs, Roger Ebert, gave it 2.5 out of his customary 4. Praising Bacon's performance and Wan's efficient direction in the process. He also gave big props to a great courtroom scene, which we'll discuss coming up. But the New York Times, 40%, aside from a stunning 3-minute tracking shot as the gang pursues Nick through a parking garage, that's Kevin Bacon's character, and Mr. Bacon's hauntingly pale, dark-eyed visage, Mr. Wan's film is a tedious, pondering time waster. San Francisco Chronicle, this wasn't Mick LaSalle, this was Stephen Wynn, gave it 25%, so I guess 1 out of 4. Almost everything about the movie lands with an emphatic, preordained thud. But I picked out a couple of other buttes from the Letterboxd ether, again showing just how much this is loved, really. Although we'll start with some negative ones. Dave Hanratty said 1 star, more tribal tattoos here than in an MMA gym. I'm going to save Bill's review for later on because I think it's really important, actually. But positive ones. Ashley Lashy, 23, said only 3 weeks ago, 5 stars, this movie is the most violent... Oh, this is all capitals, by the way. This movie is the most violent and traumatizing movie I've ever seen in my entire life. ... 5 stars. Sorry. Oxghoul. I actually don't know how to say it. I can't say it. 5 stars, simply says cinema. Which is a great review. And I'll finish with 5 Crows gave it 5 stars. This movie is awesome and it got my street blood boiling. I felt like a bad mother. And if those reviews don't mean the absolute world, then I don't know what will.
Letterboxd is truly the gift that keeps on giving.
It really is, man. On the topic of like the movie and of course like Wan's direction and stuff like that, just before we get in, like overall, did you have a feeling or a takeaway from the look of the movie?
I just thought that I think all of his films look good, though. I really like him as a director. I think sometimes his concepts don't quite land as cleanly as they might, generally I thought this was a really well shot movie. I thought the action was really well choreographed, felt very brutal which is a good thing for this type of film, but also with the with some elegance as well. And I'm sure we'll come on to the multi-story car park sequence.
Ooh, yeah. As noted by our esteemed reviewers mentioned. Should we get into the film then?
Absolutely.
So the movie gets underway in that kind of like I felt like with the score and like we're in the same universe as the Thomas Jane Punisher movie to some extent.
Absolutely, yeah. It's got a lot in common with
it really does, doesn't
with
it?
That the only thing that it doesn't have in common with that film, and with a lot of revenge films, and this is something of a gripe of mine with the film, is that what usually in a revenge scenario, it's you messed with the wrong guy, so the person who you've wronged has some sort of expertise which will help him in taking you down. You know, we have Taken, we have Man on Fire, as you say, the Punisher. Frank Castle is a cop, isn't he? You're trained in some sort of combative way where you can exact revenge on your enemies. Whereas with this one, he's literally just like he's just a regular dude, isn't he? He's he's just a regular 9-to-5 working family man.
He is. I mean, like he is a corporate stooge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So this would tie in. This is probably a good time to bring in this other review that I really caught my eye, because so many times during this, especially the second half of the film, I was like, where did he get these skills? And so Bill, lovely succinct name, on Letterboxd said 1 star. It's really a movie about a man who gains super strength as more of his family is murdered. Which is so accurate.
Yes.
It's the truth, isn't it?
I mean, he goes from a pencil pusher to the Punisher, doesn't he, in about 10 days?
Yeah, he definitely does. And that's like that. So plot is not something we're going to have to concern ourselves a great deal with here, is it? I mean,
No.
we start off with the picture of a family. Kevin Bacon's the dad. Kelly Preston is the mom, and brilliant to see the late great Kelly Preston on screen here. And I think she's great. And the 2 kids, Brandon and Luke. Brandon and Luke.
Or, as Wikipedia puts him, Nick's younger and less charismatic son.
That's so not on.
It's genuinely, it's just a dig. It's got nothing to do with the plot. Lucas, Nick's younger and less charismatic son, suffers survivor guilt. Like, it's got nothing to do with the plot at all. It's just a jab.
It's like the kid actor, his jealous high school friends wrote that bio on Wikipedia. It's absolutely ridiculous. So it's very obvious. Thanks, Wikipedia. If I didn't need the signposting already, James Wan also had that covered. That there is a favourite son.
There is, yeah.
And it's quite hard to watch because I felt very bad about it.
You shouldn't. I mean, I've only got one, so it's easy for me to pick a favourite. Rob, would you like to share who your favourite child is?
I will not be doing that. I certainly won't be asking Wikipedia for them to do a breakdown of the characters of my children.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that his firstborn is his pride and joy. The other one is just sort of a guy who hangs around the house and sort of gets in the way.
And the more that they lay praise on this kid, the more I know something awful is going to happen.
Oh yeah, he's dead meat as soon as you find out that he's potentially going to that he's a bit of a sports star, so he plays ice hockey, which is good. You don't usually see that in motion pictures, maybe because it costs more to film an ice hockey game than it does.
Yes.
anything else, and it's more, with the ice. And
Is that where $19 million of the budget went?
It's more logistically challenging than filming on a basketball court, I suppose. But yeah, it turns out he's a bit of a hockey star, and he wants to go and play hockey professionally. He thinks he can do that, and his dad seems to think he can do that as well. And his brother is like, look at me, and everyone's like, get out of the way, you. Go away. We haven't got time for you. We're putting all our eggs in this basket.
They literally broom him at every possible opportunity.
Yes.
This lived with me for quite a long time. This scene when they're driving back from a hockey game and Brandon announces he's going to college to play hockey.
Yeah.
Bacon, wearing a full varsity jacket with his son's name on it and all this kind of stuff, is not, he's obviously very enthused. At the same time, he knows he's got to tell his wife about it. And he's bristling with this, I guess, pompous pride, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they stop at a petrol station on the wrong side of town.
I mean, it may as well just be called Murder Town, basically.
Yes.
It's the most seedy possible gas station. He couldn't have been that short of gas. Was he? Does it flash on empty at some point?
I think it does, yeah.
I mean, people who let their gas tanks run down that low anyway is just asking for trouble.
It is. And yeah, he goes in to get some snacks. The boy I'm talking about here. What struck me here was the randomness of the violence.
Oh yeah.
As in, like, there was no reason why Kevin Bacon and his son are the targets here. It was just the sheer callousness of the fact that this gang need to kill someone tonight. It's part of an initiation thing, and the youngest member of this gang, the younger brother of Billy Darley, I think it's Billy,
yes,
played by Garrett Hedlund.
Yes.
Incidentally, I'm so hoping that at some point Garrett Hedlund is going to play some posh rich dude so I can call him Garrett Hedge Fund. But I'm still waiting, because this is not the movie you can call him Garrett Hedge Fund.
No. He's a proper sewer rat in this one, isn't he?
Yeah, and they cut his throat. They cut Kevin Bacon's son's throat, and Kevin Bacon's forced to watch his son horribly
after sending the
bleed out.
shopkeeper to horrendous RoboCop-style Squib City.
Yes.
Like, one thing that really strikes me is you can tell that he's still very much got that the Saw energy going on, hasn't he? Like, the squibs are so explosive and gory, and there's so much just general grue when anybody gets shot, or like with the throat slicing. It's both very impactful and kind of over the top at the same time, and it sort of works, but at the same time you're like, he just wanted to load that poor shopkeeper day player with as many squibs as you could get on him and explode his stomach out.
Yeah, it's heavy going, isn't it? As a visual.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Basically, Kevin Bacon sees this happen from outside, and he runs to try and help his son, and one of the kids doesn't get away. Am I remember this correctly? He gets left behind by the gang.
That's right, yes. And then gets run over.
Yes. Again, quite forcefully, but also quite comically.
Yes, for no reason. No, there's no known reason why this needs to happen.
To progress the plot, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always that. And then there's a harrowing funeral scene. Kevin Bacon takes this spectacularly badly, as I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
And there's no punches pulled in terms of the family tragedy here. I mean, like, it's not like this is not dolled up. The family's in absolute turmoil about what has happened.
Yeah.
Although Kevin Bacon is still back at work eating sandwiches.
Oh, that's the American way, Rob. You don't get time off. People have babies and are back in the office in the afternoon. It's absolutely horrendous. You don't get compassionate leave at all.
Well, no, it appears that way. Aisha Taylor is the cop in charge of finding out who's responsible. I mean, it's very obvious, isn't it? There's no investigation needed.
Yeah, absolutely, and even Kevin Bacon does, and they go for a line-up at the police station, don't they? He goes, "Yep, it's him. I've got him already."
Yep.
The one who's clearly been hit by a car in the last week.
I love it. Why didn't they just get like a lineup of other people who've been recently hit by cars? That would have been a fairer
Just
lineup.
some guys in traction. And then basically he goes, "Yeah, I fingered him. Not like that. Get your head out the gutter."
This isn't the Bigfoot erotica. Go on, again.
And basically he sits down with this DA who, if I've got one note for this guy on his line of work, he really needs to improve his bedside manner with the father of a murdered teen. He's just like, "Look, we're just going to do a deal with these guys because, whatever. Like, it's better he gets some jail time rather than none whatsoever. And yeah, you're cool with that, right, Big B?"
Forced to go along with it. Yeah. I just don't...
Yeah, and it's at this point that so Eames references in his review a really powerful courtroom scene. I assume this is the one he's talking about.
I imagine it is, yeah. The particular courtroom scene where, Bacon knows it's the other guy and he's been asked to provide, his testimony to put the other guy away. But there's been that back and forth beforehand with lawyer weasels who say, hey, if you, the big fish here is not this guy, it's, or they're trying, it's like a deal cutting kind of thing.
Yeah,
isn't
exactly.
It? And
yeah.
It involves the guy who actually sadly killed his son. It involves him getting away with things to an extent.
Yeah, but Bacon has already got it in his head that he's going to take the law into his own hands, so he does not. He basically recants his testimony in the courtroom and walks out, doesn't he? And decides that he's going to become an angel of revenge, despite being an accountant of some description.
Yeah, I don't know what he does. Do we ever find out?
He's a risk assessor, I think.
He did such a bad job with his moves in this.
Yeah. I mean, if he had his risk assessment hat on, he'd go, "Well, I need to stop this plan straight away."
Immediately.
The tremendous amount of risk that I'm taking on here, not to mention collateral risk, which is coming down the pike.
Because it's monstrous what goes on from here. So
Absolutely,
obviously he then decides that I think it's in the courtroom he decides that, if he's going to get away with it, I'm not going to let him do that, because deep in my corporate stooge packaging, I'm
a bad motherfucker.
Just like the the review earlier, which seems so inspiring to that person, by the way. So yes, he decides that he's going to go out, find this nasty little drug dealing weasel man.
Yeah.
And bring him to justice. Doesn't take him very long to find him. Obviously, everyone is very much in easy reach in the locale of Kevin Bacon in this film. We never actually find out the city, do we?
I believe it was shot in LA and South Carolina, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, Columbia, South Carolina. But yeah, they never make any. It's any city USA, isn't it? Essentially.
Yes, and I think that's probably a purposeful thing, isn't it? To say that this story could happen anywhere you want, that kind of thing, or round the corner from your place, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yes, he goes to a laundromat in the middle of the night in the basement of some grubby building, and doesn't disguise himself. Knifes the dude from court, pseudo-accidentally. Although, he went there with intent. Let's not doll this up. And, people recognise him. They know it was him. And it's the little brother of Garrett Hedlund's Billy. How did you find Garrett Hedlund in this one? Or Garrett Hedgefund. Let's just do it now. I'm never going to get to crack that gag again. So
I thought he was good. I thought he was pretty effective as a cue ball maniac who goes around just murdering people for a bit of a laugh, and doesn't get on with his own father, played by John Goodman. It's like
underrated. Such an underrated.
2 scenes. He was
couple
on
of
set
scenes.
for about 3 hours. Like, right, let's knock
He
these
really
out,
was, wasn't
basically.
he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Big jam jar glasses, doing a lot of heavy lifting. But I thought those scenes were amongst the best shot in the movie, actually.
Absolutely.
In his
yeah,
office.
I mean, this is a very well-made movie. I mean, the guy who shot it is goes by the name of John R. Leonetti, who is Wan's main cinematographer from Dead Silence until Insidious Chapter 2. He's also a director in his own right, having made a lot of action films, horror films. He directed the first Annabelle in the Conjuring spin-off universe, and the masterpiece that is Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So,
oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
And also Charlie Clouser is who scored the film. He scored all of the Saw franchise movies, and he was in Nine Inch Nails with Trent Reznor as well.
No way!
Yeah. Everybody's a composer out of that group. It would say.
They are, aren't they? Let's talk about the score for this, because I'm going to say I found it quite weird.
It was a bit heavy-handed, I thought.
Yeah. Too many, ghostly call. Sorry, that was a song by Michael Jackson. Sorry.
Yeah, it's got this weird grungy sort of new metal thing sort of underneath it as well. It's not a great time for music in the mid-2000s, to be perfectly honest.
I do know what you mean, man. I do know what you mean. It was heavy-handed is a very good way of describing this, actually. But I also still feel it's like kind of off-kiltery, kind of weird. It doesn't I'd have loved to have like a straight orchestral score to this, actually.
Yeah.
Something that you could remember. Because I can't really remember any of it apart from like acoustic guitar noodlings and the occasional like soft rock bits and stuff like that.
Very 2000s.
Very much so, yeah, very much so. Which was another feature of the reviews, actually. The reviews from present day all were saying like, this is such a product of 2007.
Yes.
You know, that kind of thing. So Bacon then has obviously opened up a can of worms by his poor behaviour. And
just going back to that first murder, this is the one that I feel is the one that, not the first murder committed by Bacon. This is the one that feels the most realistic out of everything that then transpires, because it's messy, he doesn't know what he's doing, he sort of stabs the guy by accident, he messes it up like you would if you weren't a trained murderer, and then from then on he just becomes like he like levels up with each person he kills. They get more elaborate and more bloodthirsty. This first one sort of reminded me. Have you seen, we did Green Room earlier this year, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
And the director's previous film, Blue Ruin, which is a very similar story of revenge, in which a guy with no training decides to take out people who have done him wrong in the past, and all the murders are sort of like that first one, where it's really messy, he doesn't know what he's doing, it's very violent, it's very upsetting, the violence, and it's kind of, I thought it might have stayed on that track a little bit more, the film, as it went along, but it was like, James Wan was like, no, I've got some ideas here, we're going to do some big stuff.
Yeah, I do know what you mean entirely. I find so the topic of Garrett Hedlund, I find an interesting one here, actually. He had a 3-year break from acting immediately after this film.
Was there any reason for that, or?
I don't know, but he came back with the 2010 double whammy of Country Strong and Tron Legacy. Country Strong being what appears to be like a rom-com kind of thing. His career is fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
He was tired of being confused with Charlie Hunnam, Taylor Kitsch. They're all the same person. They're all the same person.
Garrett Kitchum.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, no, I think Hedlund is a really good presence, actually, and I think in this film, like I think he elevates the material, actually. I do, because this could be extremely one note, and he, while being quite one note, is a really sinister one note.
Yeah, he does the job, doesn't he? Like, he looks like
Yeah,
a
he does.
heavy, and he's got the shaved head. He's not doing the pretty boy thing. He's, as that reviewer remarked, he's covered in tribal tattoos. Like.
A year younger than me. Yeah.
Is he? Oh.
40's coming, Garrett.
Yeah.
40's coming, bud. So they go and try and track down Nick Hume, and this results at this brilliant car park sequence.
Yes.
That I think is legit brilliant.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, the way they did it as well is on the DVD. There's a behind the scenes of making the shot, basically, which is like, and they had like a cherry picker on the outside of the multi-story car park, which like the camera operators would hop on and off, and that's how they're able to go up through the levels. And as they go up, they hand the camera to a different camera operator.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's just really well choreographed. And it ends in like a huge, like something out of like a Tom Cruise action movie with Bacon in the back of this car with one of the hoodlums as it's reversing off the top of the multi-story car park, and he's like scrambling out as it goes off the ledge with the hoodlum inside, and he's just about like saves himself by the skin of his teeth. What I did notice on this, Kevin Bacon, for all his talents, not a great on-screen runner. Bit bandy-legged and all over the place.
Yes, he's got a hint of the Steven Seagals about him.
He does, yeah.
When he runs. But like this is... so his movements, his physical performance, I think this is part of that, actually. Like he's in the no-hoper territory at this point, isn't he? Way out of his depth and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he still manages to end up outwitting all these thugs and then chuck a dude off a high-rise. So he's not totally without merit.
It's not a bad day at the office.
Not really. And yeah,
it's only my second day as a vigilante. I'm doing all right.
He's up for Vigilante of the Month at this rate.
Absolutely. But as well, I must say that sequence is amazing. It's the real standout set piece. Even the foot chase before they get up on the...
that's very good as well.
It's very well put together. He's a good filmmaker, James Wan. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Things eventually catch up with him. This could be one of my favourite scenes in the movie is when the dude goes to the office because he dropped his wallet during that... foot chase, all the car park stuff, and this thug delivers his wallet and some other stuff to his place of work. And Bacon now is totally terrified because he knows, right, these people now know where I live.
Yeah.
Runs home as quick as he can and asks for the police's help. Is this police force from present day Britain? Because man, are they underfunded. Sorry.
Not to mention underskilled as well, like the two cops.
Yes.
You'd think it was SEAL Team 6, but like breaking into Bacon's house and not just some like street hoodlums. They're like special forces. They like kill the two cops who are on guard. Yeah, it's like under the cover of darkness, and then they're in and then this sequence is real brutal as well and really well shot.
I think it's like brilliant. I think that sorry, man, I've just jumped in, but I think the stunt work in this, and the close quarters cinematography, you can tell what is happening. It's a close quarters action sequence, and you can tell what's happening. Yeah. It's a breath of fresh air.
Bacon spears a dude down the stairs like it was proper.
On this day.
It was real Attitude Era stuff.
I'm all for it. And then
they kill the rest of his family.
yeah, in front of his eyes. I mean, the death of the family, or is it? No. This is an execution, isn't it? In a family home, at a family barbecue.
In the living room, nonetheless, in front of the family portrait.
Terrible.
Got no class, these murdering psychopaths.
So, sadly, Kelly Preston buys the farm, Kevin Bacon gets shot somewhere, but somehow survives.
Yeah.
And the son, Lucas, the Wikipedia's less charismatic son, also survives. And Bacon brought it on himself, essentially, which the cop, Aisha Taylor, takes no small pleasure in telling him.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as he wakes up, you did this. This is all on
I mean, in
you.
fairness, Joey Tribbiani's just broken up with her, so, you know, she's in a bad place mentally at this. Weird cast. Very weird cast.
Yeah. More sort of character metamorphoses take place in the hospital because Bacon is jittery and obviously devastated, standing over his son's bedside.
Yeah.
And then he stands up, and it's a separate shot, and suddenly we know that he's turned. He's just gone to the absolute dark side.
I don't think Bacon is good in this role.
You don't think he is?
I think he is good in this role. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, I do agree. I mean, obviously, I think he's a very, very dependable pair of hands when it comes to pretty much anything on film.
Yeah. I think when we did Hollow Man, we discussed, though, that, like, all of his big successes have always been him in a supporting role, with the exception of Footloose,
absolutely.
perhaps. Whereas here, again, it's another one where he's the lead and it does nothing at the box office, unfortunately
you
for him.
are
Yeah.
totally right, man. Totally right.
And now it can't be found anywhere.
Not just sank without traces. Someone's like, you have to crack the black market.
It's way more elusive than the hoodlums that he's seeking.
It's more elusive than the Bigfoot from Bigfoot Corner earlier. He embodies this very, very well. And he commits. Every time he's on screen, he commits. Yeah. And that's all you can really... That's what you really want to see every time, I think, especially with something like this.
Absolutely. And as I sort of hinted at earlier, I don't totally buy the metamorphosis, particularly in the third act.
I know what you mean.
Because he has no training to do with it. I mean... he goes to see John Goodman, who turns out is Garrett Hedlund's dad, buys guns from him because, you know, John Goodman, he wants to make an honest dollar in this economy.
You're a cash buyer.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you ask me where my son is, I'll blow your head off. We'll just blow his head off anyway. It's like, it's terrible logic.
I mean,
like, he's already paid you, just shoot him anyway.
Keep the money.
Yeah, absolutely. So he does, and then he goes home, and he goes from like novice to doing tactical reloads in like the span of he goes to his shed basically.
Yeah.
He gets all his tools out. He's like looking down the wrong end of the barrel of a shotgun. Like, it's a miracle he doesn't blow his own head off.
I love stuff like this, and I know I do. I unapologetically do. When stories where the ordinary person turns into something they're not. But you're absolutely right. This is an abrupt turn.
It's like he's never handled a gun before, and by the end of it, he's like surgical with a shotgun and doing tactical reloads as he's moving through.
He's like literally with a shotgun, and not like a tactical shotgun, but like a farmer's shotgun. He's taking off legs at 30 yards. And that's like a 1 in a million shot, isn't it? He comes out of hospital, and this is one of the great breakdowns that I've enjoyed, where he shaves his head particularly poorly. I love the little Jedi rat's tail he's got at the back, because it's a nice attention to detail, because whenever I used to shave my head, I always missed that bit too.
Yeah. And you didn't have vengeance on your mind either, so, you know, it's tricky.
Well, no, I was unclouded by vengeance at that stage. Yeah. So, and then, yes, he... Obviously, because everyone knows everyone's location in this, he just goes straight out to the old psychiatric hospital where Garrett Hedlund is hiding with all his friends. Oh, sorry, Garrett Hedlund has waxed his dad by this point.
Yeah.
Which was abrupt.
Absolutely. Have you got a kettle boiling in the background there, Rob? You're making your cup of soup.
I'm so sorry. We'll just pause for a second, man. I'm so sorry about that.
3 hours later.
The house is on Stygian Street, which I believe is a James Wan in joke.
Apparently, yeah. There's a few Easter eggs you can see like the little jigsaw puppet in graffiti in the back of John
Oh, can
Goodman's
you?
workshop and stuff. If you're looking for that sort of thing, I'm not because I'm not an adult virgin.
Well, no, I must admit I didn't see that either. That's no reference to your previous quantifying remark. Yeah, I do love a good callback. I love a callback in movies and stuff like that.
Absolutely,
What's the point in doing these things?
Oh yeah, you've got to put your own in-jokes in there for sure.
Of course you have. Like, it's got to be part of the same little universe.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally down with that. Good for you, James.
Jigsaw's
Love it.
torturing Carrie Elwes in the factory next door.
Convenient factories. Yeah, actually, is this a
We've already
companion piece?
established that this film takes place in murder towns.
This suddenly makes total sense. This, honestly, it might not even be a separate buildings. It might be just in a different part of the building. It was a big building.
Yeah, the floor underneath. Yeah.
Honestly, if like we get an email from James Wan saying, "Yeah, you're the first guys who got this," greatness. It's a shootout, essentially, that lasts about 20 minutes. It's fabulously gory. It's fabulously well staged. And I think the lighting is brilliant. I think it's really well shot. I can tell what's going on everywhere. Again, I know I make this point so much about inaction. Can I tell what's going on? How is the geography of action? But I do think it's so important because there have been, certainly around this period, 2007, there were so many films that came out that just had really badly directed action.
Yes.
And badly cut together action. And I know what's going on here.
Yeah, we're in the Jason Bourne-ification of action at this point, where the Bourne movies did it really well and that aesthetic worked really well for those films in particular, but then everybody tried to copy it and they took the wrong lessons from it, which is what generally happens.
James Bond.
Oh no, I forgot about that.
Yeah, seeing films where you know what is happening is just priceless, I think, actually. Again, having just watched Indiana Jones tonight, like, does anyone stage action better than Steven Spielberg? I just don't know.
No, probably not.
You can see everything, and it's so gloriously put together. But it's great. I mean, to go through every beat would be ridiculous, but he tracks down bloodily Garrett Hedge Fund, and in sort of like a churchy part of the hospital, maybe the chapel, I guess.
Yeah.
They all shoot each other to absolute pieces, and it's great because we know that Bacon's future is preordained here. We know what's going to happen. We know where he's headed. Yeah, this shootout is great and graphic and
very Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
If you notice some of the beats in there, Rob, and they make reference to this on the trivia page on IMDb. So, like, one of the hoodlums gets his fingers blown off, as in what happens when Travis is going up the stairs in Taxi Driver. Obviously, there's a shaved head. Bacon takes one in the neck as well. So yeah, it's clear reference there, and it's sort of like what I do like about this film is it doesn't glorify vengeance at all. It's not like a revenge fantasy, like something like, even though I love those movies, it's different tones. John Wick is a revenge fantasy, essentially. That's just about Keanu Reeves looking cool as fuck as he shoots people in the face, essentially.
Over a dog. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's more after that, but yeah, it just basically it's an exercise.
I've only seen the first one, as you can tell. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's an exercise in him murdering people in the coolest way imaginable, and I very much enjoy it. But this isn't essentially what this film is going for. And then from there, he gets home, starts watching his home movies, believing that his entire family is dead. Police obviously show up at his house because he's just gone on a rampage downtown in Murder Town.
And everyone knows where everyone is at all times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it turns out, if Bacon's day wasn't getting any worse, he finds out that the less charismatic younger son is still alive.
Yeah, I mean, so what I thought about this was like, how blinking selfish. He was alive. Right now, he'd
written him off
he's lost his
entirely.
whole family. lost his whole family now. Young lad's traumatised for life now. Stigmatised for life.
Yeah.
Because his dad found the clippers, essentially. I do like the fact that he got home, and it's a very... It amplifies the tragedy of this family a lot. The fact that he dies sitting on the sofa watching the home movies of his family.
Does he die, though? Because in the trivia it says there's an alternative ending where he succumbs to his injuries, but I thought he did die. Have I read that wrong?
I mean, I assumed he did by the sheer weight of his injuries, the shot in the neck, the fact that there was almost black blood coming out of his mouth on his own sofa. I assumed that he was not long for this world. But death sentence 2, back in the habit, why not? And the movie finishes.
Absolutely, yeah.
We got there.
Yeah.
So let's have a favourite bit, James. What's your best bit?
I don't think you can look beyond the foot chase into the multi-story car park, and then the oneer within the multi-story car park, culminating in Bacon-born driving a car off the top with a hoodlum inside. I mean, it is, as that one review said, it's cinema, basically, isn't it?
It is. No, I do agree, actually. There's so much of those moments, those little moments to enjoy, actually, isn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, on a completely separate note, I do find the gearing up montage once he's out of the hospital unintentionally funny, just because he goes from inadvertently almost blowing his own head off to becoming John Matrix in the space of 30 seconds.
I will always love the fact that you said John Matrix and not The Matrix, by the way.
John Matrix from...
Commando, yeah.
Commando, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's our vibe.
Yeah.
You know, that's our indestructible military hero.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But he does. He becomes John Matrix. I think... my best bit would be... It's really hard because there's so many little beats that I really do enjoy in this. Even down like stupid little beats, like when I know I keep mentioning it, but the sandwich in his office, he's just eating it with a hand that's got bandages on it.
You know, it's really like funny. The blandest sort of just ham, no butter.
I got the impression of lettuce. I got the impression of at least.
Oh, it was just lettuce.
Leaf.
There was nothing else on it.
That's what corporate stooges eat. Lettuce sandwich at lunch.
Cucumber sandwich.
On white triangles. No, I think the whole end shootout was really brilliant.
Yeah, it's good.
So
that guy
that
guy who gets taken off at the knee is incredible bit of prosthetic work.
He really is, isn't it? I like. No, actually, I'm gonna go with when the first person he kills on that sort of spree is at another place, isn't it? It's a drug, some druggie at another place, and he blasts his way in. And as he runs in to the room, he trips immediately and stumbles about. And he's in a leather jacket with a shaven head, kind of, and looks so badass to an extent. And he's Bambi on icing as soon as he goes in. So that's my favourite bit, because from a character standpoint, I enjoy that. So what, James, do you think, in terms of reconsidering this, for your reconsideration, death sentence? What do you think?
So, as I've sort of touched on as we've been going through, I do bump up against Bacon's transformation into an avenging angel. However, I do think this is a very solid revenger. The action is handled well, there are some real standout sequences, and the violence, whilst gratuitous in parts, feels impactful, as it should when the film is attempting to take a more grounded and realistic approach to the idea of vengeance and a regular guy carrying out these acts. I wouldn't say it's not a classic of the genre by any stretch, but if you haven't seen it and happen to see it in a charity shop or CX or see it on eBay for a couple of quid, I would say it's definitely worth picking up and giving a spin. A light recommend, I would say.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that, because like this isn't one of those things that, like, obviously I have a very big soft spot for it, but a light recommend I think is appropriate. It's not going to reinvent the wheel, but if you didn't know that the guy who did Saw or one of the guys who did Saw, teamed up with Kevin Bacon for a revenge thriller, you're probably going to go like, wow, I'd like to see that. But this is just nowhere. This is nowhere. So I'm really glad you enjoyed it, James. For me, in terms of reconsidering this, I'm obviously going to say yes. I think, just like I said, if you didn't know that this film existed, surely that might, the ingredients here might pique your interest, and it's well worth a watch. It really is. I think that actually you hit the nail on the head earlier, James. I think the streamers are missing out big time here by not picking this up, because this could actually be a sleeper hit 16 years later on the streamers, because it's got all those ingredients. It's got those, the sort of like the hard-hitting, gratuitous but throwaway qualities that sometimes sleeper hits have. So what are you doing, Netflix? What are you doing, Prime? Paramount.
It must be a rights issue. It's got to be a rights issue.
Yeah, I mean, so I think you're right now, James, because when I stuck the Blu-ray in to watch it again, I didn't recognise a single production company at the start.
Yeah, that's probably.
So it must be that. Yeah. It must be that. You must be right. No, but certainly it doesn't let up. It's propulsive. It goes at a serious lick. It is by the numbers, of course it is, but this is a revenge movie. You're going to get someone who's had something bad done to him, and he wants to make that right. And he just happens to make that right in quite a vulnerable, interesting way, courtesy of Kevin Bacon, courtesy of Mr. James Wan. It's shot brilliantly by the dude who did
Annabelle. And
Annabelle.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which I saw at the cinema with a friend. Missed the first 5 minutes of.
Oh my God, no. Shot brilliantly by that guy. It's good. You could do so much worse with your time than this. But I think it gets curio status for us because of just how hard it is to find. To the point where it's almost disavowed everywhere. It's almost like pretended that it's not a real thing. When have we ever had to say to our listeners, James, that you might actually have to go to CEX to get this?
Yeah.
It might be the only way you can get it.
Exactly, yeah. Or eBay. eBay's probably the better shout for anybody.
Yeah.
My Blu-ray costs £3.50, which is the same as a Prime rental anyway. So.
Yeah. And also, if you happen to find a giant French version of the poster, please let me know so I can relive the glory days. Thanks a lot, James, man. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. I had a lovely chat with you tonight about it.
Yeah, it's been great fun.
Yeah, it's been lovely. And it's your pick next time, isn't it?
It is, yes. So, I was and ahhing between a couple of different choices. I was torn, but I've made my decision. So, we lost the great William Friedkin earlier this year. So I'd like to honour the great man by taking a look at one of his most critically reviled films. Right, Rob, put your trousers back on. It's not 90s trash-to-piece Jade, but 2003's The Hunted, starring Benicio del Toro and craggy-faced killjoy Tommy Lee Jones.
No unsanctioned buffoonery.
No, absolutely not. It's a straight 90-minute thriller in which people go after each other with wooden knives, and if that doesn't pique your interest, I don't know what will.
That sounds... I mean, it sounds blisteringly Friedkin as well. So,
yeah.
Sign me the hell up. Also, it will be a first watch for me, that. So,
absolutely, buzzing. Great. And for listeners in the UK, you can stream the film for free via ITVX. So... If you don't mind watching it with ads, you can watch it on there.
I just so happen to draw the line at I'm joking. I will be filling my boots. Until I've watched it, obviously, and then needing to own this Friedkin joint, I will obviously do so. So brilliant. I'm buzzing for that. So join us next time then, folks, for The Hunted.
Yes.
Sheesh. Cheers, James. Big love everyone at home. Thanks for listening to us. Please give us a 5-star review on your subscription service of choice. Hit us up on the Twitters, not X. And I think we're on Instagram. Are we on Instagram? We never talk about that.
We are. We don't use it, though.
Yeah, we don't use it. We've got reconsiderpod@gmail.com if you want to throw us any thoughts. And stay... It said stay frosty. Stay frosty, everyone. Peace and love. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Isn't stay frosty a military term?
Possibly.
Like stay alert. Stay on your guard. Because you never know when Kevin Bacon might have a monstrous meltdown nearby. So I kept seeing his character, Sebastian Cain from Hollow Man. Kept slightly mixing the two up. Like a slight career change, possibly. Yeah, useless.